live, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Dylan Holy Experience. It's 7 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, 10 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for those of you on the East Coast. Thank you for the eyeballs. Thank you for your very valuable time and attention. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the 2022 end of the year market recap. And based off of these tabs that I have in front of me, what a year. So let's just jump straight into it. Will Smith in January slapped Chris Rock at the Oscars for not keeping his wife's name out his fucking mouth. Whatever, fair enough to him. But Chris Rock did after that apologize. Let's continue on. Monkeypox was a thing for like a month. Omicron, there was yet another COVID-19 strain. Speaking of COVID-19, Joe Biden tested positive for COVID-19, and we are now going to start looking at some American politics stuff. Justice Stephen Breyer is to retire from the Supreme Court, paving the way for a Biden appointment. More on this development later. Boris Johnson resigns in the UK as their prime minister, and in his place, Liz Truss becomes the UK prime minister only until about 45 days after this point. She ends up resigning as the British prime minister, and in her place is Rishi Sunak, who is the current prime minister. Now, keeping it in the political wing for a moment, we're going to have multiple points throughout this coverage of the 2022 year. But there were a significant amount of deaths within the political space this year, and very significant ones, heads of state. The first one, unfortunately, starting off this point is Madeleine Albright, who was the first woman to serve as Secretary of State, dies at 84. China's ex-leader and president of the CCP, Jiang Zemin, dies at 96. Shinzo Abe shot dead in Japan. Japan's former and longest-serving prime minister dies at 67. And the final leader of the Soviet Union, Mikhail Gorbachev, also dies at 91. Now, Russia has been a bit of a little cheeky one in the year of 2022. In early 22 February, late February, that is, Russia invaded Ukraine. Past just Crimea right here, but like a full scale invasion to the point where they have dude, look at this, man. They have this is just March, dude. So yes, and we're going to speak further about some annexations that Russia ended up doing, but we can actually take a look at that right now. Russian annexations in Ukraine. Obviously, Crimea, Donetsk, Luhansk, or Luhansk, Kherson, and Zaporizhia. Let's have Google pronounce this for us, because I don't, these people do not deserve to have their oblast mispronounced. So let's see this pronunciation. Let's hear what they have to say.
Speechmodification.com pronounce Zaporizhia.
Zaporizhia. So yes, so Russia was being a little aggressive this year, and in retaliation, there were some international sanctions placed on them. So in 2022, you saw a major boycott of most corporations and Western corporations in China, or in Russia. So no more McDonald's. Apple stopped selling their products there. Visa and MasterCard took them off of their payment terminals. You had, and we can even take a look here. You had Russia kicked off the SWIFT standard, so they can no longer receive wires. That being said, their SWIFT alternative is expanding quickly, but that could also just be, propaganda from them. So just take that with a grain of salt. But there was a massive boycott of Russia by major corporations and on top of that, trading sanctions, one of those being oil. So we basically completely ended our exports of or imports of Russian oil. If we take a look at where are they? Where are they showing this? If we take a look, yeah, so they said a Russian oil price cap where they basically capped the price that they were buying Russian oil at, and then Russia counter-sanctioned them by basically blocking any sale of Russian oil to outside or sources that they are actively sanctioning, most of which being the United States and the Western European countries. But yeah, man. And then on top of that, banking. So they were cut off the SWIFT system. But that being said, there have been no sanctions that China has placed on Russia and that Russia has placed on China. So China's still openly trading with them. But hey, man, that's all good. That's all good. If we take a move over back to U.S. soil, one of the GOATs, if not the greatest of all time, Tom Brady, announced his retirement from the NFL after 22 seasons. And then unretired after 40 days. So he's back in the game. Do you know what is no longer in the game for Tom Brady? That is his marriage with Gisele Bundchen or Bundchen when they announced their divorce after 13 years. So you know, I hope it was for the better. You know, I'm sure they had their reasons. Clearly they had their reasons as to why they should get divorced. Hopefully they're better separated now than they were together, because that's the best thing that you can hope in these situations. But Tom Brady's back in the game. I'm pretty sure he had to go back in the game after what happened to FTX. More on that later. You already know it. If we take a move over to the WWE, Roman Reigns wins the undisputed WWE Universal Championship at WrestleMania 38, cementing him, frankly, as one of the GOATs, dude. One of the greatest of all time. Look at this picture. Look at this picture. He is in rarefied air. He was only one of 4 men to hold the WWE Championship past 1,200 days cumulatively. Like, holy shit, that's crazy. WrestleMania 38 was not the only piece of massive wrestling news that happened. Cody Rhodes makes a return to WWE after defecting to AEW. And on top of AEW, we can just talk about Brawl Out right here, right now, baby. AEW Brawl Out CM Punk and the Young Bucks, as well as Kenny Omega. They got into a little kerfuffle after CM Punk got a little cheeky on the All Out presser. Now, in the wrestling world, this is definitely one of the most seismic years in terms of what was going on in the wrestling world ever. One of those things that, like, truly I didn't think would happen for another like 15 to 20 years, but Vince McMahon retires as the CEO and chairman of the WWE amid investigation into alleged sexual misconduct. There have been further developments in that, and Vince McMahon was definitely not doing the right thing. I'll say that. In his place was his daughter, Stephanie McMahon, and Nick Khan, both named as co-CEOs of the WWE in July, and new head of creative and the now chief creative officer and chief content officer comes Triple H. And I welcome it, baby. His work in NXT was absolutely fantastic. And thus far on the main roster, I would like to see what happens at WrestleMania 39 and see what he does in a full calendar year. And then I can't just come out and say like, oh, Triple H is better than Vince McMahon. Dude, Vince McMahon is the greatest of all time. There has not been another man who has more influence and has had more influence in the professional wrestling industry and the sports entertainment industry as a whole than Vince McMahon. Like seriously, and you know he's truly the GOAT, dude. Like say what you want about Vince McMahon and the things that you know he has allegedly done. You know, obviously innocent until proven guilty, but you know sometimes people don't like most people don't fuck around with these types of claims. But what Vince McMahon did for the professional wrestling industry from the 1980s to July of 2022 Dude, this year, like, was the man getting kind of crazy? Could you make the argument that he is definitely past his prime and kind of losing it? Or arguably. But no man has had a greater influence than Vince McMahon on the professional wrestling industry. And that being said, I have nothing but the highest of hopes for Triple H. I really think that he is one of the greatest wrestling figures of all time. But you want to know who's one of the greatest figures possibly in history now? That is Queen Elizabeth, who celebrated her Platinum Jubilee, the 70th anniversary of the accession of Queen Elizabeth. And it is the first time a British monarch has ever celebrated one. There she is making an appearance. More news on Queen Elizabeth shortly. Elon Musk offered to buy Twitter in April of 2022, then backs out of the Twitter deal for the third time on September 12th of 2022, but ultimately ends up purchasing Twitter at the end of this year for $44 billion. One of the first things that Elon Musk does is fire Parag Agrawal, former CEO of Twitter, and becomes chief twit. And he held a cheeky little poll on his Twitter asking the question, should I reinstate former President Trump, with 51.8% of the vote voting yes. And if we take a look here at real Donald Trump, we take a little cheeky look here. Bada boom, bada bing. Here we go. Yes, I'm following Donald Trump. All right. I also follow Joe Biden. So it's not, Dylan's all right. He's following Trump. Nah, man. Everyone's following Trump. 99 people that I follow are following Donald Trump. And these are like hardcore leftists and stuff like that. But dude, everyone loves the Trump tweets. You can make the argument that Trump is bad or Trump is good, whatever. But everyone loves the Donald Trump tweets. 87.8 million followers, and he's back. He has yet to use it, but he is reinstated. So at any given point, he could just pick up the phone and start tweeting again. Just saying. Now, going back to the British monarchy news, Queen Elizabeth II died in September, and taking her place is King Charles III, the new monarch. Johnny Depp was awarded millions of dollars in the libel suit where Amber Heard ends up winning less in the countersuit. So Amber Heard was found liable for defaming Johnny Depp in an op-ed published in the Washington Post. Good. Screw Amber Heard. Fuck Amber Heard. Let's continue on. Going back to Donald Trump. Donald Trump has announced a new White House bid for 2024 and keeping it in the politics, baby. Let's move it back to SCOTUS. So we saw Justice Breyer bouncing, saying, I am retiring, and in his place is Ketanji Brown Jackson. She is the first, it says a first, she is the first black woman to serve on the court, and she is confirmed to the Supreme Court. Supreme Court also did some cheeky stuff this year. It overturned Roe v. Wade. All right, and listen, I'm a man, so take at this a man's view on abortion. But Roe v. Wade, the only thing that Roe v. Wade protected was the state. It basically got rid of the states' rights for the right to choose. They basically made it, it's federally protected, which again, I think certain things should be federally protected. Like, do you know what else was a states' rights issue? Slavery. And then the Civil War was fought over it. So there are definitely things that I think should be protected federally. With abortion, I definitely think you shouldn't just be able to have there's people who get abortions on the operating table. I'm not about that. I don't think we should be doing that. I think that's a little wild. Obviously there are extenuating circumstances, stillborns, miscarriages, stuff like that. But in most cases, I don't think women should be able to get abortions on the operating table. I definitely think you should be able to have the right to choose. Just because I live my life a certain way. Check this out, guys. Just because I live my life a certain way, I can't expect someone else to live their life the same way. Everyone's different. And people say abortion is murder. You're normalizing and legalizing murder. And if you like that argument stems from all fetuses are humans, and I don't think like it's something that doesn't have the ability to have sentient thought yet, and not necessarily like not able to form complex thoughts, but I'm talking about like doesn't have even a developed prefrontal cortex yet, and pretty much everyone has at least the muscles and to have a prefrontal cortex. I don't know if like things that don't necessarily have prefrontal cortexes and thus are able of sentient thought, I don't know if they should. I don't know if they're considered humans. But nonetheless, that's just getting down to the everyday minutia of it. Like overall, I'm pro-choice, man. I'm pro-choice on abortion. I'm pro-choice on marijuana. I'm pro-choice on guns. If you want to own a gun, you should be able to. I'm pro-choice on being able to vape flavored tobacco. We can and we can talk about and we're going to be talking about that. Actually, no, let's talk about it now because this is bullshit. This is bullshit. California bans flavored tobacco products, including vapes. Listen, they're making the argument, oh, kids like cotton candy flavored vapes. Do you know who else likes cotton candy flavored vapes? Everyone, because they taste real good. All right, I'm not someone who regularly uses nicotine products or vapes or cigarettes or anything like that. But I've had a few puffs of them or whatever, and guess what? This is not a wild thing. I prefer inhaling the ones that taste like cotton candy or green apple than the ones that taste like Virginia tobacco. Absolutely delicious. Virginia tobacco. So to run it back to Roe v. Wade, yeah, I'm generally pro-choice. All right, generally pro-choice. Cool. So what Roe v. Wade, what overturning it does is turn it back into a states' rights issue. Where in some states like California, not necessarily an issue. There, in the midterms this year, and we can even take a look at it right now. In the midterms this year, California passes or passed a proposition to basically codify abortion and has now turned it into an abortion sanctuary state. They turn it into an abortion sanctuary state. I think that's a good thing. Again, you can't make abortions illegal. You just make safe abortions illegal. So again, giving people the opportunity to be able to have safe abortions, I think that's generally based. Now, on the same or on the different side of the coin, you take a look at Alabama, who like basically has the strictest abortion laws in the entire country, and they did that after Roe v. Wade. So overturning Roe v. Wade and making it into a states' rights issue, I see it, but I think there's some things that probably should be federally codified. One of those probably being Roe v. Wade, but they've been talking about codifying Roe v. Wade for 40 years. Since the precedent of Roe v. Wade was made, like in the 70s. Let's see. I don't know. I honestly don't know off the top of my head, but let's take a look here. 1973. Yeah, since the 70s, dude. Next year is going to be 50 years of Roe v. Wade, or the Roe v. Wade precedent being set, but obviously got overruled. But yeah, I mean, they've been talking about codifying this since like basically the 80s. So, you know, it's just another, it's another political carrot that they flash in front of people. Now, I spoke about the right to bear arms and the choice to be able to own a gun. Now, America, in terms of, you know, their school shootings, it's reached a point where like it's definitely odd that more school shootings happen in America than other countries. And I think like the ease of being able to purchase a firearm, I don't know if that's necessarily the root cause. Like a gun doesn't kill a person kills a person. But what I will also say is America has really lax. I feel like we could be doing a better job of giving people education on firearms and making it more understood that, like, yes, having a gun is, your unalienable human rights. I think that's fair. I think that's a fair thing to stand by. And I stand by that. I think you do have the unalienable right to bear arms and defend yourself. But also, firearms are a dangerous thing. Like, it's not just this casual, like, oh, I own a firearm and brandishing it around. So when there's lax understanding and lax education and lax safety measures and precautions taken, you get stuff like the Uvalde shooting, where 19 children and 2 adults died on May 24th, the deadliest shooting ever at a Texas public school. So, it's difficult talking about this stuff because, I don't know those kids. And I don't like just bringing it down to, a headline that I talk about. It feels odd. Because it's basically the same medium that I talk about, like, oh, the Dow Jones futures came back 93 points in after hours trading sessions, coming hot off the heels of cooler than average looking inflation data. Like this is the same medium, and it's just a shame that this stuff still happens. I mean, I don't think anyone wants school shootings. No one wants school shootings. No one wants, police brutality cases. Like, even the George Floyd stuff, like, it got heavily politicized back into like a BLM versus Blue Lives Matter kind of thing and kind of trapping people in there. But like, everyone thinks that what happened to George Floyd in terms of the action taken to him by, the action taken to him by Derek Chauvin and by the Minneapolis Police Department, everyone finds that reprehensible. Speaking of finding things reprehensible, Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced to 20 years in prison for conspiring with Jeffrey Epstein to sexually abuse minors. What's interesting is nothing else ever came of this. So Ghislaine Maxwell was sentenced. But there were other people listed in this. They ended up redacting all of the names out. And I'm not going to talk about this stuff because this is wild. That's definitely against TOS, what Ghislaine Maxwell and Jeffrey Epstein did to children. But yeah, she ended up getting sentenced to 20 years in prison. I think rightfully so. And there's more people doing this, and justice needs to come. Another person who I don't know if was directly linked to Jeffrey Epstein, but R. Kelly was sentenced to 30 years in prison for federal racketeering and sex trafficking charges. Fuck R. Kelly. Okay, music though. I like some of his tracks. I like some of his licks, but not what he did here. I don't like that too much. Let's move over to the NBA scene. Boston Celtics great Bill Russell, 11-time NBA champion, dies at 88. A GOAT, just a full-on GOAT. Like, rest in peace to the GOAT, dude. Yeah, rest in peace to him, man. Keeping it in the NBA, the Warriors close out the Celtics in Game 6 to win a 4th NBA championship in 8 years. And when you're talking about GOATs, I mean, dude, Steph Curry, full of like he is definitely a GOAT in basketball, no question. But yeah, man, this Warriors team is a legendary team. Like, they are, like, this is going to go down in history. Like, people are going to talk about basically the dynasty that the Warriors had for near the better part of a decade. And yeah, man. Speaking of California sports, the Los Angeles Rams in the beginning of the year came back to win Super Bowl 54 in front of a hometown crowd. Wait, is that 54 or 56? Oh my gosh, that's 56. I don't know my Roman numerals. But yeah, They ended up winning Super Bowl 56 in Los Angeles, which was pretty awesome. Let's go down south. I mean, we're already talking about Southern California, but let's go to South America, where Brazil's Bolsonaro loses a bid for a second term in the fiercely contested presidential vote. Bolsonaro, who he's like the Donald Trump of Brazil. Honestly, I wasn't keeping a super heavy tab on the Brazilian presidential election, but looks like Bolsonaro lost, kind of following Trump. Interessante. Speaking of South American countries, but countries that won something, Lionel Messi-inspired Argentina wins the World Cup after beating France in sensational final. Speaking of France, Macron wins a re-election as his challenger demonstrates the rise of the French far right. So Macron now enters into his second term as French president. Let's run it back to the United States. Brittany Griner was swapped for a Russian, and she heads home on December 8th, 2022. But here's what's interesting. So they just say WNBA star swapped for Russian. That Russian, his name, do you know what they called that Russian? The Merchant of Death. We traded Brittany Griner for an arms dealer. Listen, man, I don't take that trade. I don't know if again, I'm happy that Brittany Griner is back, but we just kind of traded her for a terrorist. So, take that what you will. But it happened. I'll say that. Do you know what else happened? John Fetterman won in the 2022 midterms. He won in Pennsylvania, and he's going to get sworn in to become the next Democratic Pennsylvanian senator. Let's move over to the crypto field and now the economic space. There were a lot of crypto bankruptcy filings following we got the Terra crash in here too. Let's talk about the Terra crash for a bit. All right, let's take a look at Terra Luna. I'm pretty sure they still have it on. Oh, I don't want to look at it on Coinbase. We can just go to CoinGecko. Dude, CoinGecko is always showing like Terra Luna Classic. So Terra Luna. There we go. Terra Luna Classic. All right. So Terra Luna Classic at one point was trading at $119.18. And how Terra worked was it was basically digital gold. I'm saying that in quotes for those of you who don't see me on a camera because I don't have a camera right now. But it was digital gold, and they were minting US dollar stable coins off of Terra. That's kind of how it operated. Then someone gamed the system. Terra ends up going down 95% in 2 days and is now trading at a 100% loss from its all-time high. There were numerous Terra forks. So people are still investing into Terra. I do not own Terra. It used to be a set supply, but then it turned inflationary and then everything just went to shit. Now, that led to a cascading effect. Bitcoin corrected massively. Three Arrows Capital was declared insolvent, owing $3.5 billion to its creditors. So that crypto hedge institution closed. Voyager Digital followed suit. And FTX would then later buy Voyager's assets for around $1.4 billion. Celsius on July 13th declares bankruptcy and owes $5.5 billion to its creditors. And FTX was also going to purchase Celsius. Then we get into FTX. CZ Binance fucked around, didn't take an over-the-counter deal from SBF, dumped FTT token on the open market, and the entire liquidity for FTX and their collateral was based off of the value of FTT, which they made. So FTT went, it has dropped significantly. Then FTX is declared insolvent. Then John J. Ray III, the former liquidator of Enron, goes in and sees that SBF was playing around with user funds. He also had a hedge fund called Alameda Capital. and or Alameda Research, excuse me, Alameda Research, and they were basically taking backdoors, and SBF helped build these backdoors, but SBF helped build these backdoors. So FTX and his trading firm Alameda Research were able to bounce funds back and forth, including user funds that were not being announced in their accounting books. Extremely illegal. So SBF basically lost $16 billion in 2 days. He also spent $140 million in the 2022 midterms lobbying and funding PACs. And he was going to spend $1 billion on the 2024 election. He no longer has that. It's just over for him. So yeah, this just goes to show what no crypto regulation does to an MF. Keeping it in the economics and finance area, U.S. inflation reached a new 40-year high in June at 9.1%. Stunning. That being said, inflation has come down. If we take a look at the no end, and you know, we all know that I hate traditional CPI numbers, but it's the easiest to convey this with that. So we just take a look at the November CPI, and inflation is down. I mean, it's down to 7.1%. Or yeah, so it's down to 7.1%. Not ideal still, but hey, it's coming down. That being said, we did reach that 40-year high in June, and it's pretty unprecedented. This type of stuff, at least at this velocity. Speaking of that, the measures taken to counteract inflation were also done at the highest velocity ever. If we take a look, we were at a pretty low interest rate environment for all of 2020 and into February of 2022. This created a movement in the market that is quite literally referred to as the everything bubble. Everything went up, and that was due to low interest rates and market euphoria. But that quickly ended in 2022. Let's just say stuff got kicked into high gear. We bumped interest rates at the fastest velocity we ever have, with the federal funds effective rate now sitting at 3.78. Just for context, it was at 0.08% earlier this year, in February of this year, about 10 months ago. Let's call it 11 months ago. Okay, fair is fair. I'll call it 11 months ago. But now basically, I think it's, let me run it. I think it's 400% from where it was, but I just want to make sure we get the correct numbers for all of y'all. It's up about 47 times from where it used to be. So this has done absolute wonders for the market. One of those being we can take a look at let's take a look at what's going on for the median home price first, because this is actually kind of an anomaly, and this has been happening the entire year. But the median price of a home is still increasing even in this time of high interest rate or higher interest rates than where we were at the beginning of the year. I do think this is going to start slowing down, if not starting to decline, because we've never seen this kind of movement up before so rapidly. And we could have said the same about the S&P 500 last year, but this year has not been so nice to it. It's down 21% year to date. Dow Jones generally pretty close to it. But yeah, man, we are in a recession. 2022, we are in a recession, and I think we're going to continue on in one. Obviously, I think recessions are a neutral event. They're necessary. You have to have expansion and contraction periods. You can't just have expansion periods. So, y'all know my spiel. I'm dollar cost averaging, blah, 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 blah. And we're going to be talking further about that at some point. But now we can generally, I guess, move into our little plug territory. So twitter.com, you go to at Dylan Holy or at real Dylan Holy. You go to at real Dylan Holy. I'm always on there. I'm posting key takeaways. I'm posting updates on when I'm going live. I post news. Obviously shit posts, the Las Vegas shitters from Beauty Suite. I just have fun on Twitter, man. I just riff on there, baby. At real Dylan Holy. Be sure to give it a follow. Speaking of places you should be following me / subscribing, twitch.tv/realdmh. Be sure to give that a follow so you can see when the Dylan Holy experience goes live. We go over now to YouTube. To YouTube, man. YouTube.com/@DylanHoly. Gonna post some more content on there. I'm obviously streaming on there right now. So if you're liking what you're seeing and want to see some more, be sure to subscribe and turn on post notifications. Look at that. Turn on that little bell right there. Bada boom, bada bing. All. You just press all, and then you got it. Ladies and gentlemen, I began streaming this year. I began doing the Dylan Holy experience this year and going all in on this venture thus far. And I'm having an absolutely fantastic time. 2023 is going to work wonders for us. And I'll see you next year. Y'all have a good one. Good night.